As an owner of a MacBook Pro with Retina display, disk space is at an absolute premium. My MacBook features 256 gigabytes of SSD flash storage, which isn't exactly tiny in most use cases, but is downright microscopic when it comes to editing video and audio. My video files are extra large due to the fact that I shoot mostly in 4K. In fact, simply gathering the footage for this video review was something in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 gigabytes, and that's not even an in-depth video like an iPad review or an Apple Watch review. With this in mind, it became apparently clear that I was going to need an external storage solution, but I also needed something that was fast enough to handle the throughput required by a 4K video. After lots of research, I ended up purchasing the Seagate Backup Plus Fast Drive. It's a 4TB RAID 0 drive, so it's fairly fast. A couple of weeks into my purchase, I've accumulated several hours of hands-on experience with this drive. Does it live up to my expectations? First of all, let's run down some of the drive stats. It has 4 terabytes of capacity, it's USB 3.0, has RAID 0 out of the box, up to 220 megabytes per second transfer speeds, it's bus powered, and it comes with 2 USB cables, a single connector and a Y connector. It's evident from the drive's branding that Seagate is aiming for the backup crowd. In fact, the drive's very name is called Backup Plus, so it's definitely intended for time machine backups and the like. That, of course, is not how I plan to use this drive. I plan on using it every day for significant loads at times, and for significant data throughput. I also plan on traveling with this drive when necessary, but for the majority of the time it will be safely parked on top of my desk. I understand that Seagate has a tarnished reputation of sorts when it comes to the dependability of its drives, but there's no way that I will be able to test this drive's dependability with any sort of accuracy when I've only had it for a couple of weeks. Why I chose this drive? Speed. RAID 0 is great for speed, but it's also double the risk when it comes to data failure. There's actually 2 tiny 2TB drives inside of this case, which equates to 4 terabytes of storage in total. Data is striped between both drives, and because it's accessing data from 2 separate sources, the access rates are thus doubled in speed. Unfortunately, due to the nature of RAID 0, your risk is substantially increased because if one drive dies, the data on both drives is compromised. Seeing that I plan on backing up this drive every night, that's a risk that I'm willing to take, since it's such a great bang for the buck. Finding a 4 terabyte external drive for $200 is one thing, but having a 4 terabyte drive with RAID 0 for only $200 seems like a steal. Of course, if the drive fails, then it's not much of a steal at all, but again, that's a risk that I'm okay with taking. Ease of use. Because this drive is bus powered via a single USB 3.0 cable, it works on tons of computers, and I only need to carry the drive and a single cable with me to connect my MacBook on the go. I can't tell you how convenient it is to have this much storage with me everywhere I go. I don't have to go hunting for power outlets to use this drive either. The Backup Fast Plus is also really small. It's shorter than my iPhone 6 Plus and about as thick as 2.5 iPhones stacked on top of one another. It's a little wider than the iPhone 6 Plus, but not by much. I can easily fit this drive in my front jeans pocket. Compatibility. Hooking this drive up to my Mac was a painless affair. OS X recognized the drive immediately. I then went right into the disk utility and formatted the drive as Mac OS Extended Journal. I even enabled encryption on the drive with no issues whatsoever. I chose to save my encryption password to the keychain for ease of use and quick connections. As an external drive that I travel with from time to time, it goes without saying that I definitely recommend encrypting your drive. Fortunately, this was a piece of cake with the Backup Plus Fast. Real-world usage. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with a ton of benchmarks and comparisons, but let me just say this, there is a marked increase in speed over my old Western Digital MyBook USB 3.0 external drive, which is not RAID. The speed increase when importing large 4K files and rendering video in Final Cut Pro X has drastically improved. The fact that I have so much storage space that I can take with me anywhere on the whim is extremely liberating to me. Since the Backup Plus comes with 2 USB cables, I keep the Y connector cable hooked up to my monitor's docking station, and I keep the single cable in my travel bag ready to go. Conclusion. I genuinely have nothing bad to say about this drive thus far. At $200, it's hard to complain about having a drive that checks off so many of my must-have bullet points. It's fast, it's convenient, it's small, it's quiet. It makes my video editing workflow so much better than it was before. But with all of that said, none of this matters if this drive fails on me in a year. I've heard some absolute horror stories about Seagate and their products. When I sent a tweet out to acknowledge my acquisition of the drive, I received responses featuring horror stories of ones who had experienced failure with their Seagate drives in less than a year. Maybe there's a reason that Seagate sells a drive with so many great features for so cheap. Maybe I'm in for a rude awakening in a few months. I'll be sure to report back with my experiences. But for now, as long as I follow my backup schedule, I'm extremely happy with this pickup. I recommend the Seagate Backup Plus Fast to those of you who have heavy throughput workloads and who back up their data regularly. I especially recommend it to my fellow OS X users who run apps like Final Cut Pro 10. It makes editing huge files so much more feasible now. I can never see myself going back.